Hey friends, and welcome back for another Path of Exile 2 video. Tomorrow is the launch, and I am so excited to get in game and play. Now, I do think that we should all be prepared for server issues. The game has gotten wildly popular, but we'll talk about that in just a little bit. What I want to talk about right now is my plans for my launch class choices. So, my decision at the moment is I'm going to go the Witch, I'm going to go Bloodmage, and we are going to go for a crit loop build. I don't know how possible it is, but I talked about the concept in another video on my channel earlier, and I want to pursue it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope it works, but I've got some backup plans if that doesn't work out. So, what I'm going to do is we're going to ascend Bloodmage, and then we're going straight down for Life Remnants, which is going to be really useful for getting some early recovery from the Life Remnants. And then we're going to go straight over to 5 and 6 here for the critical damage bonus and the base critical hit chance. This base critical hit chance is enormous. This is so much crit chance, and scaling off of this is going to be much easier for a cast on crit build once we get that rolling. So that's why we wanted to go Bloodmage, and it allows us to kind of combine our defensive layering, at least in the regard to health stacking, with our damage. The final ascendancy we're going to pick up is Vitality Siphon for the spell damage leached as life, and that's going to give us even more recovery and make our life even more useful. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to try to take this and go with Blood Magic, which is going to remove all my mana, and I'll get into that in a little bit as well. So moving over to skills, here is the overall plan, and if you haven't looked at the skills yet, this is your chance to go ahead and dip out, but here is what I'm planning. Our main skill, once we get everything ready and once we get a crit chance that is high enough to sustain it, we are going to do Cast on Critical, FireStorm, Increase Limit, More Duration, and Area of Effect. A lot of these are things that we can take or leave. For instance, Cast on Crit, FireStorm, Increase Limit are the only actual necessities in this, and that is we need Cast on Crit, we need the spell that we're casting, and we need to increase limit because FireStorm has a natural limit of 1, and we want it to be able to loop, so we need to increase that limit so it can cast itself. Again, this is relying on the way Cast on Crit is worded, and how it seems to work as a buff is that it seems like any crit, including the crits from the spell that it casts, will add to the energy of Cast on Crit. So if that's the case, we can do this Cast on Crit loop and it'll be awesome. More duration and area of effect just make this a little more effective at a general use skill. I'm not sold on these. I'm not sure I'm going to keep them, but they're options that we have. Now, our main skill that we're going to use that is not the Cast on Crit is going to probably be Ember Fusillade, and this is probably what I'm going to level with as well. So Ember Fusillade, looks like we can pick it up pretty early, and it kind of looks like Volatile Dead. It makes a seems like ball of fire that hovers above you. After a duration, it launches at an enemy, and then you can have up to 10 of them hovering around you, and they hover for a specific duration. Now, the question I have here is what happens when we go above 10 embers. So we need to play with it, we need to see how it works, but I'm really excited for this one. Now, there are a couple things we can do with this skill to streamline how often we have to cast it. So it's got a cast time of 0.4 seconds, which is a very low cast time. But we can also do things like Spell Echo, which is going to make the spell cast another time. And again, this is a maybe because I don't know if this is actually going to be a supportable skill. But we can do things like Unleash for sure. And then we have to only cast it every now and then. So we wait a full second, and then we cast the spell 3 times instead of 2 times. And this will be nice for going in between packs of enemies. And then finally, we can probably do multiple projectiles. So because this has the projectile tag, we should be able to do multiple projectiles, and instead of spawning a single projectile with every cast, we will be spawning, I think 3 is the way I'm reading this. So we can have up to 10. we'll spawn 3, we'll cast this 3 times, which means if we have a second between each cast, we will cast 9 embers at a time. And that's that seems pretty good to me. Now again, this is going to be highly dependent on how the skill performs when we pass that 10 ember point. Like, does it fire it off? If it does fire it off, that's awesome. But if it starts replacing them and still like infinitely refreshes the hover duration, then it might be a little weird. So something to think about there. I'm really excited for this skill. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The next thing I want to do is I want to use Elemental Invocation. Now, Elemental Invocation I think is a really cool skill because I think it serves as a really good opening. And what it does is it gains energy when you inflict an elemental ailment. So freeze, ignite, or shock. And then it goes up all the way to 500 energy, and it consumes 10 energy per 0.11 seconds of base cast time. What this means is that whenever you hit that maximum, or whenever you trigger this, because this is going to be one that you trigger instead of it triggering itself. So if you build up to 500 energy, you can trigger this and it will cast whatever spells are linked as many times as it can with the energy constraints. So something I have here for a placeholder, I'm not going to use Comet. Comet's a cold skill. I'm going to want something that is similar but is a fire skill, is the hope. So I'm going to want something that's big and hits hard, that is a fire skill, ideally. And then with a cast time of 1 second, this would cast, let's see, 4 times, I think? So it would cast Comet 4 times immediately, and we can just open up a fight with a big barrage of spells. So, really excited about this. I really like the way this meta skill works. This is also going to be very, very based on how much spirit we have, because all of these spirit reservations are going to get probably out of hand pretty quickly. Next up, I definitely want to use Malice. I don't know if this is going to be something that we can pick up on a skill on our own, or if this is specifically linked to the scepter that we saw it on, but I do want Malice for the extra critical chance. So critical weakness is a debuff that increases the chance of crits being landed on each enemy. So each stack of critical weakness gives 0.5% crit chance base, and it can stack up to 20 times. So huge increase in critical chance for Malice. And then for something like this, we're gonna do the usual strategy of putting like Vitality and Cannibalism on one of our persistent buffs. It doesn't really matter which one, but we do want Vitality for some life regen per second, and we definitely want Cannibalism for a % life recovery on kill. Cannibalism can drop if we really want to trim down, but I think I definitely want Vitality for the regeneration. And then the last thing I think I'm going to do for the full loadout, again, depending on how well we can scale our spirit, I think I want to try a second cast on crit setup. And what we're going to do with this one is we're going to take another approach at FireStorm, and we're going to use Lightning Storm instead. Now, because we are scaling fire damage, or I'm planning on scaling fire damage, this is a little odd, right? Because Lightning Storm is going to be dealing lightning damage instead of fire damage. But what we can do is use Mana Flare support. And what Mana Flare support does is whenever a skill does a critical hit, it triggers Mana Flare. And Mana Flare does fire damage. So there's a little AoE fire damage whenever you critically hit something, and it consumes a little bit of your mana. The real question here is, how does this interact with Blood Magic, which is the keystone that removes your mana? Because if it disables Mana Flare, right, then we get into a weird situation where if I want to really do this, I have to keep my mana, and I can't use Blood Magic. But if Mana Flare is flexible enough that it has the ability to switch over to using life, then this is going to be an incredible synergy with this overall build. So very excited about this, and this will be an interesting way to have storms all over, hopefully all over the screen, and it should be a lot of fun. Now, other things that I can add in here is we can throw in Sniper's Mark for extra critical damage bonus. Not sure how I feel about this one because it is consumed, so it marks a target, and whenever they get hit with a critical hit, that critical hit removes the mark but deals a little extra damage. Not sure how I feel about this given how often I plan on hitting, so a lot of these hit very often. So I don't know how effective Sniper's Mark is going to be. Flammability, on the other hand, is going to be very effective since it seems like we're going to be scaling a bunch of fire damage. So that is the overall thought on how that's all going to work. Now, I fully expect all of this to change as soon as we get in game and as soon as we start really taking a look around what we have on offer, because I feel like I'm going to be a kid in a candy store just saying, ooh, what does this do? And trying everything I can. So who knows what tomorrow is going to hold. This is the plan right now. We'll see what happens when we get in game. I do really love this idea, and I love the idea of Ember Fusillade as well as the cast on crit loop. So I think in the end I'm probably still going to try this, but we'll see. Alright, so now that my plans are out of the way, if you want to see me attempt this and test things out and try and fail and have a ton of fun, then be sure to come over and join me on Twitch. I will be streaming tomorrow for the launch and every day for the first 5 days of the launch. So come join me, come check it out, and we'll have a great time. And then one last thing I wanted to leave everybody with, Path of Exile 2 just posted a video that is incredible news. I love that Path of Exile 2 is being so successful, but they posted this video. I wanted to take a look at it because I want everybody to understand that this has grown way out of the proportions that GGG expected, right? They never expected to have this much success with the early access launch of Path of Exile 2, and they're doing everything they can to try and support it, but with big launches, there's going to be issues, right? There are things that scaling this big introduces. So I wanted to take a quick moment and look at this message from Jonathan Rogers, which I really appreciate the level of communication that they're giving us. And just know that, hey, we might have issues tomorrow. It's something that I think we should honestly expect with this level of attention and this level of hype. So be ready, have a backup plan, and be patient with GGG. Let's take a look at what Jonathan says.
Hey guys, we've just passed 1 million redemptions for Path of Exile 2 keys, and sales are still increasing. Now obviously this is great news, but it also comes with some downsides too. There are probably going to be some queues during the launch weekend. Now before our announcement when we were ordering capacity, we really didn't expect to have more than 1 million people online at the same time. We've already ordered way more cloud capacity, and those servers will be coming online very soon, but I do have some concerns about issues with the backend. We quite frankly don't know what our backend services are going to be able to handle as we go above 1 million users. Now we've added more database shards, scaling everything we have up as far as it'll go, but we're really not sure what kind of limits we might hit. We never expected things to go this big during EA. So I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you guys so much for believing in this project. If we do run into server issues at launch, just know that we're going to be working as hard as we can to solve them. Thanks very much, guys. Alright,
so there's the news from Jonathan. Again, I'm very, very happy that they're having so much success, and it's a good problem for them to have, that they're worried about how many people are going to be on. And again, I'm asking everybody, be patient. These things happen, and there's no way they could have anticipated this many people being ready to jump into Path of Exile 2 early access. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you want to play along with me on launch, jump into my Twitch stream. I've got a link down below. I'll also be streaming on YouTube, so you can jump in here as well. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.